Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Omega. Welcome back to another Apex Legends video. So today I wanted to do another buff concept video talking about Revenant, because I feel like Revenant is in a weird spot in Apex Legends. Like, he was one of the most overhyped and I think underwhelming legends that came out in the history of Apex. And I want to just talk about his abilities and how we could possibly make him into a much better legend. I mean, there's so many other legends right now like Gibraltar, Pathfinder, Wraith, Lifeline that just have such more useful abilities in the game, and I really think other legends need to have buffs to get them to that point. So let's first talk about Revenant's passive, man, because there's a lot of stuff here that I think do need to be changed. Starting off just explaining what his passive is for those of you guys that don't know. Revenant's passive allows him to basically crouch faster and climb walls a little bit faster. Now, this is all great. I love the fact that he can crouch walk faster. It makes it super useful whenever he's trying to sneak around in buildings. You don't make a lot of noise when you crouch walk, and you basically move at the same speed as if you were walking, standing up. The problem that I have with Revenant's passive is actually his wall climbing, because I feel like his wall climbing should 100% be unlimited. I mean, after the Fight or Fright event, which basically was just to tease Revenant, we saw a glimpse of what we thought Revenant's abilities were going to be, turning into a zombie, being able to fully scale buildings and stuff like that. And when we came out with Revenant, all of his abilities were very lackluster compared to that event. And to me, it doesn't make much sense why he doesn't have the ability to fully scale walls, because most of the very tall buildings in World's Edge you can't even get up to, even if you were trying to parachute in. It wouldn't really matter too much. So I don't think having the ability to fully scale buildings is going to make Revenant extremely overpowered. For those of you guys that don't know, he also has the low profile, which does give him an extra 5% damage that he takes from enemies. So it is kind of a risk reward. You have the ability to fully climb onto the roof of this building, but you also risk getting shot at by the other teammates. And I think that would kind of even it out a little bit more and just make it a lot more useful in general. Let's talk about Revenant's active ability, which is his silence. Now, when I first saw the patch notes of Revenant and seeing that he had a silence, I thought that was super cool. So far, this is the first legend in the game that actually silences other legends' abilities, and since Apex Legends is a team game fully centered around abilities, I thought that was going to be extremely overpowered. But it seems like it's not really overpowered at all. It's actually kind of the opposite. It seems very underpowered to me. So there's a few changes I feel like I would definitely make to Revenant's active ability. One being that when his active ability comes into contact with an enemy, it kind of distorts and slows them, much like an arc star would if you threw it. That might be a little bit too overpowered. I don't think it should distort as much as an arc star, but a little bit more distortion would be nice, just so they don't run away, basically, because that's kind of what happens now. If you hit someone with your Revenant active ability, they'll just run away. It really doesn't matter. They'll just kind of walk it off until their abilities come back. So I definitely think that there needs to be some kind of distortion when they get hit by that, just so it's easier for Revenant to actually push up on people. And I also think the silence needs to be increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Just give it a few extra seconds so you have time to push enemies, especially if you hit one of those long range, because right now it seems like his active ability, I mean, sure, it's useful for silencing abilities, but at the same time, I don't see myself really using it too much. I think that it's helpful if you're trying to, kind of like heal yourself in a corner and you can place it down real quick and kind of hide behind it. But other than that, man, it's not really the best offensive tool. And for Revenant being such like a rush-heavy offensive character, you would think that his active ability would do a little bit more stuff. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about Revenant's active ability. Do you guys think that it needs to be changed at all? I've heard some people say that it should actually negate the pinging from enemies, and at first I was like, that's kind of an interesting concept, kind of goes along with the whole silence aspect of his abilities, but that would also be extremely overpowered, because that would just give extreme advantage to any team that was playing with headsets. So I thought that was a cool idea at first, but I don't think the game should mess with anything related to the pings. That was just kind of a side thought. Anyways, moving on, let's now talk about Revenant's ultimate ability, which is probably one of the biggest concerns I think most people had when he came out. Now, for those of you guys that don't know what Revenant's ultimate ability does, basically he places down a death totem, which allows him and his teammates to become zombies and effectively respawn at that death totem once all of their health is depleted down to 0. Now, when they respawn, the problem is they respawn with 1 health. And that makes it very easy for someone like Caustic or anyone that has any kind of ability that does damage to one-shot your entire team once they come back to the death totem. And it's gotten to the point where most people won't even take a death totem or use it at all, just because they don't really see the point in doing it. So as a Revenant player, who's playing these team games that's focused all around the Legends abilities, and to place an ultimate that should be really useful and really effective, and just have no one actually use it is a huge concern, and definitely just shows all of the reasons why Revenant does need to be changed. But let's talk about how we could change this ultimate, because I think there are a few things we could do to make it a little bit better. The first thing I would change is to change how much health that you spawn back with when you come back to the death totem. As you guys know, right now you spawn back with 1 health, which really doesn't make any sense, because at that point all Caustic has to do is place a trap next to the death totem and your whole team is dead as soon as you come back. There's very little skill to it, and unless you have a really good hiding spot for your death totem, which is kind of hard because most of the best hiding spots are on top of buildings, and if Revenant had unlimited climbing, that would make everything so much easier. But unless you place the death totem in a really clever spot, you know, most of the time an enemy team is going to figure out where it is and just be able to kill you as soon as you come back. I also think that the speed of being in the death totem should be increased by 15%, you know, around 10 or 15%, just to give him that extra mobility when he's in his ultimate. And I also think that the health of the death totem needs to be increased from 100 to 125 or something like that. Maybe to like 130 or 120, but just needs to be given a little bit of an extra health buff just so it's not destroyed as easily. I just think any way to kind of persuade teammates to actually use this, because right now, whenever I play Revenant, man, anyone who is good at this game kind of understands that Revenant's abilities are pretty useless and almost selfish because they don't really do a lot just because they kind of suck. So most people don't even use death totems unless it's in like some weird situation. So I just think that Revenant needs some kind of changes so that people will actually understand, like, okay, this is worth taking now, because right now it's just not worth using at all, and it makes it really hard to do well as a Revenant player, especially in today's meta. But let me know down in the comments below if you guys play Revenant, if you guys have any other feedback on his abilities or what you think needs to be changed. I want to do more of these videos because I think we're at a weird spot in Apex where a lot of the legends are underpowered and many of the other legends are very overpowered. I think the sweet spot for games, and I know people might disagree with me on this, but I think the sweet spot for games is just to make everything extremely overpowered, extremely fun to play with, so that nothing is really better than anything else. Everything is just too good. You know, League hit a point in their game at one time where everything was just extremely overpowered, and that was the most fun I've had in any game ever. So it would be cool if Apex got to that point. I hate seeing these guns and legends that are just underused for a reason, just because they're not as better as the other ones. But we can change that, guys, with these videos. We'll help. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.